Well, hello and welcome to another Auto Addicts. Today we're looking at a Jeep. I know, a Jeep. I do Jeeps as well, it's not just Land Rovers, but today we're looking at a Jeep, specifically an XJ Cherokee. So what can I tell you about this one? Well, it's a wire edge 2000, 60th anniversary model in this rather fetching grey coachwork. These are very well thought of 4x4s. I did used to have the Grand Cherokee, the bigger brother to this, with the 4 litre straight 6. This has got the dreaded 4-headed monster, the VM diesel. We'll get onto that in a minute. So if we get my little book out and run down some figures. The XJ ran from 1983 to 2001, although in the UK it didn't come here till 1993, 10 years after its launch. So monocoque construction, not body on frame like a Land Rover, selectable 4-wheel drive versus permanent in the Land Rover. It replaced the SJ Jeep and was replaced by the KJ Liberty. This, as I said, has got the VM 2.5 4-cylinder diesel engine in it, producing 114 brake horsepower, but a very useful 221 pound-feet of torque. This one is a facelifted one, being a 2000, they facelifted them in 97. The performance stats, not that this is a performance vehicle, but I know you all want to know, is 103 mile an hour top speed, 13 seconds to 60, and should return about 31 mpg. So now you know. So we've talked about the VM diesel. Let's take a look at it, shall we? And here it is. Known as the 4-headed monster in some circles, because I don't know how well this will show up, but you can possibly just see. There's my finger, individual cylinder heads, 4 of them, although by all accounts that is the only thing that is individual. It's one head gasket, one intake, everything else is one piece. They tend to crack quite a lot. You get steam pockets build up in them and they can cause cracking. They're not a particularly wonderful engine, but they're quite torquey. They're also used in the Rover SD1, funnily enough, in 2.4. I believe, I could be wrong, correct me in the comments below if I am wrong. I believe it's basically a marine engine, and it worked quite well in a marine format. Most boat engines use the sea water or lake water to come through to cool it, so you've always got a good supply of cool water, so they were cooled a lot better in a marine application. But let's have a look inside. First thing you note, it's quite a bit smaller than a lot of this class of vehicle. It's reasonably well equipped. You've got these leather seats. Possibly not the best quality leather, but you know, for basically an off-road vehicle, you don't want high quality Connolly leather. Reasonably well equipped. Obviously we have their radio, cassette, your basic functions there. These are a bit hidden behind the gear stick, your fog lights, stuff. Your headlight adjusters there. 2-wheel drive high, 4-wheel drive high, neutral and 4-wheel drive low. Have heated seats. Little, well, I'd say it's supposed to be a cup holder filled with coins, but it'd be a very small cup. There's another cup holder, much better shape or size, and somewhere for your both CDs and cassettes by the look of it. We have a glove box down there, passenger airbag. So if we move up to the instrument binnacle, my apologies for the steering not being straight, there we go. Again, we have your fuel, there we go, there we have your fuel, filler cap on the passenger side, it's noted by the little arrow there, battery, oil temperature and water temperature, or is that oil pressure? Not sure. Speedo up to 120, and your rev counter, making sure you understand it is diesel fuel only. As it's on the top there, indicators, lights, wipers, stuff like that. We have down here your electric mirrors, your windows, your window lock, etc, etc. What do we got? Up here we have a little trip computer. Not sure what, oh, I think that's for the garage door opener thing. Sunglasses holder there, which is not quite handy. Always nice to have somewhere to put your sunglasses. And your headlights down there in typical American fashion. A pull thing. The seat won't go back any further than this, and I'm not a tall person. I'm 5'10", and I've only got a 29 inside leg. I'm not a tall person, but I need more leg room. I could do with a seat just going back just another inch or so, inch and a half, 2 inches, and it doesn't. This is as far back as I can get the seat. I've had to recline the seat a bit more than I'd usually like, just to give me a bit more, get me a little bit further away from the steering wheel. But in the back. So as we hop into the back, the first thing we notice is just how narrow the door opening is. So if we climb in here, and actually it's very tight indeed. We have my feet won't really go under the seat. I've not got a lot of leg room. Yeah, I'm sitting quite low in the back here, so I'm looking straight at the headrest, and the seat isn't very deep. It's actually not that comfortable a place to be. I wouldn't want to go a long journey in the back of this. Yeah, definitely not a lot of headroom. I have got just about enough leg room, but it's not comfy. The seat is too low to the floor, so I'm my legs are sitting higher than I want them to sit. So, I have got a headrest, but that's about it. Window switch. Your kids have got somewhere to put the cigarettes out. Mat pockets. Lights in the back here. Yeah. No, I wouldn't want to be in the back of this. The Grand Cherokee is certainly a better vehicle if you want to carry rear passengers regularly. So let's see how much luggage space there is. So, luggage space. It opens upwards, but as opposed to Land Rover opening across. And it's actually not a bad amount of space. I honestly think they would have been better losing a little bit of space just to give a bit more room in the back. You can get exhaust manifolds, 70s Cadillac air cleaner bases in the back here quite happily. In this one you've got a dog guard. Annoyingly, for right hand drive ones, they didn't move the rear spare tyre, which sits here, which is right where you want to look when you're at junctions and things, which is a bit of a pain, but hey ho, that was the same on the Grand Cherokee. Nice grab handle there, a bit loose in this one, but there we go. And there is the commemorative edition, 60 years. This one looks originally like it was sold by Varsity in Kidlington, Oxon, a Chrysler Jeep dealership. Roof rack, high end brake light, rear wiper, that's about it. So let's see what it's like to drive, shall we? Might as well. Just riding along this lane, get out onto the main road and we'll see what it's like in the habitat that most of these, certainly in the UK, probably use. Obviously in America there's a huge aftermarket business for these XJs and various other Jeeps. You know, you see them like, you know, mass right up in the air like monster trucks, and you know, these are serious off-roaders in the right hands. Just creeping along here, it's not quite as easy to creep along as the Land Rover. The Land Rover seems happier just to creep along slowly, you know what we're doing here, 10 mile an hour. This is a bit harder just to keep it at a constant speed, but it probably takes the bumps slightly better than the Land Rover. Slightly smoother, whether it's because it's perhaps a slightly shorter wheelbase, lower centre of gravity, not sure, but it certainly probably takes the bumps a bit better than the Land Rover does. Basing it on my Land Rover, of course, which is well worn and what, a good 50-60,000 miles more than this. This is currently 136,000. We're currently just in two-wheel drive. The terrain, while bumpy, is not bad, so there's no need for four-wheel drive. As I said earlier, when we were looking around the inside, I would like a little bit more leg room. Headroom actually is not bad. What are we doing here? So if we go step through, currently averaging 29 mpg in this, which is not bad when the book says 31. So, ooh. Gearbox is a lot notchier than the Land Rover, but this has certainly got more pull. You can feel that torque. And actually the engine feels a bit smoother than the 200 TDI I've got in mine. Both 2.5 4 cylinders, but this feels a bit smoother, and certainly, as I said, you can feel that extra torque over the Land Rover. The steering in this is typically American, quite vague on centre. You end up turning it a lot more than you expect before it actually does anything. The steering on the Land Rover is definitely better than this. It appears to be geared about the same as the Land Rover. Ride on the road, it's about on par, I'd say. It might be slightly better, but certainly not much in it. Probably a bit quieter than the Land Rover is, and it certainly wanders more. I'm having to pay a bit more attention to the steering than I would in the old Disco. And again, there you turn the wheel, nothing happens. You have to just turn it a little bit more than you'd expect. If you're used to old Land Rovers, old series Land Rovers, or you're used to any old American car, you'll be used to that. That's not a problem. The brake and throttle are spaced a little bit too far apart for my liking. Again, just the heel and toe is, you can't quite do it as I'd like. again, it's not really a performance car, so that's probably not really an issue for anybody other than an awkward sod like me. Yeah, at 70 mile an hour, this is geared a bit better than the Land Rover. At 70 in the Land Rover, I'm doing about 3,000 RPM. At 70 in this, I'm doing about 2,500. So it's usefully slower, usefully less revvy, I should say. Rain's now come out, so let's see what the wipers are like. Okay. You can certainly hear the gearbox and the transfer box whining, because the rest of it is quieter than the Land Rover. I've no idea if that's better or worse than the Land Rover, because you wouldn't be able to hear them in that anyway. Headlining is drooping in this, quite common in all sorts of vehicles of this age. If you had anything British Leyland, you'll know about it. My pizza is drooping, and yeah, it's quite common. It's where the glue and the foam start to deteriorate. But it cruises quite happily along here. I am going to have to get some diesel because it is almost on empty, and I don't want to be ringing the owner saying, "Oh, would you mind coming out to rescue me?" So we will go and get some diesel. Wind noise is actually a lot better than I expected. Because this is a boxy vehicle like a Land Rover or an old G-Wagon or something like that, I expected the wind noise to be a lot more. And actually it's not too bad. You can just heel and tow if you're careful, but it is, yeah. There's not as much lean as in some other vehicles. It's seems a bit more composed around the roundabouts than some other vehicles of this type I've been in. It accelerates quite briskly. If you're just using it as a day-to-day vehicle, this is probably a much better prospect than a lot of the others. Shogun, Discovery, possibly even a Freelander. It's brisk enough. The low down torque, as I said, that torque really is evident in this. It's small enough where parking it isn't a problem, getting under barriers isn't a problem. There is a random rattle that's quite annoying, but not sure what that's from. Brakes aren't brilliant. The brakes do feel slightly spongy, and they certainly need a bit more of a shove than you would hope. Again, just pulling away. No speed demon, it gets up to the speed limit perfectly briskly, and the old VM diesel has even got not a bad sound about it, if I'm honest. Like all of this type of vehicle, it's nice and square. You can see the bonnet, or the hood for my American friends, so it's nice and easy to place on the road. You can see each rear corner nicely. Said both front corners are perfectly visible, so there's no problem placing this anywhere you want. Again, handy if you're off-road, but also pretty handy on-road. Interior, bit cheap and plasticky, as you'd expect from an American car, but you know, it is what it is. It's also quite utilitarian. The cheap and plasticky works well for when you're getting it dirty. It's not going to break so easily, or you know, you're not going to ruin nice expensive leather and walnut burr veneer and so on and so forth. It's not quite to the hose it's down level of a old Series 1 Land Rover, but it's not sort of so nice you'd worry about it getting dirty. You know, if you have to climb in here covered in mud, it's not the end of the world. So pros, well, it's a decent size for, you know, modern day life. A lot of Range Rovers and things like that are too big. While it doesn't really worry me, you know, a lot of people, certainly if you spend a lot of time in a town, this is a much better size than a Range Rover, a Grand Cherokee, even a Discovery. I'm not sure how it stacks up against the Freelander. Obviously you had things like the Shogun pinning and stuff like that, but you know, we're going back a few years here. In fact, I haven't seen one of them for many years. Put some lights on, because it's tipping it, dude. Now these traffic lights are the most pointless traffic lights in the world. They stay red right to the point you stop. I'm certain their sole reason for existing is to make people stop. Because the moment you've slowed down or stopped, they turn green. Without fail, even at night, 3 o'clock in the morning, they do exactly the same thing. Not environmentally friendly, I'll have you know. You want cars to keep moving. Speeding up and slowing down is not good for the planet. Anyway, back to the point in case. The good things: size, it's reasonably comfortable, it's got good punch, it's reasonably well equipped. The interior, while not great quality, is good for muddy type work. Decent boot space, very capable off-road, reasonably capable on-road. Cons: size, it's a bit small. I want a bit more leg room. It is atrocious in the back for anything other than a child or a pygmy. Maybe a leprechaun. The seat is far too close to the floor in the back, so your legs are up by your knees are up by your chin. There's no, the back is not a nice place to be. The steering is vague, very woolly in the central, bit of a dead spot. The interior plastics are cheap. I know why that was a pro, but it depends how you look at it. It's a pro and a con, as with the size. It's a pro for parking, it's a con for trying to fit in it. Would I buy one? No. It's a perfectly good, perfectly capable vehicle. It's quite nice to drive. It does what you want a vehicle to do. It's good off-road, good on-road. I would personally have another Grand Cherokee. I just want that extra space. Let's be honest. If you're buying this type of vehicle, generally speaking, you're not that worried about its size. While the size of this vehicle is good in town, if all you're doing is in town, why are you buying a bloody 4x4? And that really is the point of these. If you're off-roading on trails, the smaller size could be a benefit. It's help you get through places perhaps a Range Rover or a Shogun or whatever wouldn't go. If you just want it for cruising around the town, the city, why buy one? I don't get the whole crossover thing. I don't get people buying Range Rovers and Land Rovers and Shoguns and things to drive around town. But that's just my personal opinion. So yeah, there are pros and cons to it. I have my opinion of when they're any good, and as I said, this is, if you want to go off-roading, it's a great vehicle with good on-road manners. But other than that, why buy one? If you want to tow, you're probably better off with a Land Rover. I don't know what the towing weight of this is, but it's probably not as good as a Land Rover. If you want to fit the family in it, there are better vehicles. But if you want something that's good off-road with a huge amount of aftermarket parts availability to basically turn it into whatever you want, and for it to have good on-road manners, this is not a bad buy. They're still reasonably cheap. With discos going up in value, whereas they were the ones that you bought cheap, they are now starting to creep up in value. This is probably better on-road than the disco, all bar the steering. Certainly rides nicer, it's quieter. For most green laning, this is as good as a disco is going to be, and certainly with the aftermarket parts availability, this is going to be far better than the disco is going to be. Although there is plenty of aftermarket for Land Rovers as well, to be fair. So there, whoa, enough of my rambling. Do you want one? Let me know in the comments below. Do you hate them? Let me know in the comments below. Do you own one? What do you think of it? Let me know in the comments below. Like, comment, like, comment, subscribe, share, watch over and over again. Look through my other videos of weird and wonderful motor vehicles. And don't forget to hit that little bell icon so you'll be notified when my next ramblings are broadcast across the world of the interweb. I wish I knew what that bloody rattling was.